Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bucco Territory, presented to you by the Foul Territory Network. I'm Noah Hiles, and joining me, as always, for this show is Josh Harrison and Platinum Key, a.k.a. Mark. We've got a jam-packed show for you. Episode 2, we're going to start off by talking about some Pirates internal decision-making, the extension of Don Kelly, the retention of Ben Cherington, and some new coaching hires as well. And then, of course, this show's air date coincides with the beginning of free agency. The Pirates obviously have a lot of work to do when it comes to roster construction and free agency. We don't know if it will be a part of it. It should be a part of it. So we've got a lot to discuss. First things first, fellas, how we doing? One episode in, how we feeling?
Feeling good.
Oh, I'm feeling great. Appreciate
Awesome.
everyone that reached out, was excited to listen, just blown away by all the support. So just got me even more excited somehow.
Yeah. Feels like, Josh, from experience, opening day's over, game 2, the season's real now, right?
Oh yeah, we got our feet wet now. We know what to expect. We can't say it's an early season. It's early in the season now. We know what to expect.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get right into it. Some things that transpired over the past month that we should just give a quick review to. And Josh, I'm really excited to just get your perspective on this as a former Pirate. First things first, the biggest decision I think they made this offseason, Don Kelly extended. He took over as manager in early May 8th is when he took over. The team hovered around 500 under him as the manager for most of the season, and then they tapered off at the end. But still, good enough job that ownership decided that he was the guy. Wanted to ask you, maybe for your take on Don Kelly, but more specifically, what do you think what qualities and traits make a good manager? You've played for a handful of them, some of them better than others, I'm sure. When you're looking to bring in a manager, what are the traits you're looking for?
A guy that's gonna hold people accountable. I think in today's game, that's something that is lost, accountability, and that's not saying picking on people or whatever, but there has to be a level of ownership that comes with playing at this level. If somebody's not working hard or running balls out or doing the work that they need to, that is accountability, and you need to have a manager that's going to come in, no matter who's on the roster, hold everybody accountable. Um, and on top of that, you got to be able to relate to players. And I'm not saying be buddy buddy, be best friends, but to be able to coach somebody, you got to understand who the person is. Um, and I think that's what you saw with DK when he took over last year at May.
Mhm.
You saw a little bit of energy, guys that probably responded to a message a little different, and you saw some guys that played hard and gave DK this opportunity, to get this extension. And I think that's a testament of being able to reach some of those guys in the clubhouse. And as you said, they tapered off as somewhat expected when you said as bad as they started last year, you can't expect to right the ship right away. But you could see some
Right.
positives when DK stepped in.
Um, Now, when you're talking about qualities for a manager, do you think small market managers maybe require different qualities than, someone who might be managing a team with a higher payroll? Does the guy who's going to replace Dave Roberts in however many years need to be different than someone who would be managing organization like the Brewers, the Pirates, the Reds, who have different challenges as an organization? Or do you think those qualities, for the most part, just overlap and you want the same characteristics across the board?
I think yes and no. A lot of it's going to come down to the organization, to the team too, how they like things to be run. Because there are going to be some people that might not necessarily be a fit at other places based off of things that they agree with or disagree with, based off of whether it's a pitcher or how you handle the minor leagues or just control with certain things. And when I say control, I don't mean like controlling everything, but there are some managers that have a pitching background, some have a hitting background. Um, but at the same time, you need to have a manager that guys know is going to fight for you, is going to have your back. But the other thing that's going to keep it loose, it's a long season. You got to understand that game one is no different than game 162. It's a long steady course, and if you can have a manager that understands that, I think that slow heartbeat allows the rest of the team to not have that panic mode, and that's something that's big that you see, especially with a lot of young teams. Is they can start off hot, but then when things kind of hit the fan a little bit, there's a little bit of panic.
Now, moving forward, Ben Cherington was also retained. He's coming back for another season. Josh, from your perspective, say you're on this Pirates team and the same general manager who's been here for 6 years, has produced 6 losing seasons, is retained. How are you reacting to that? Do you think that sends a poor message to the players? And what would you be looking to see differently from that general manager this offseason to show that they're not operating the same way that's produced losing results?
Well, as a player, your job is to play. I get it,
Okay.
especially in the off season. With trade rumors, free agent signings, things that can happen. Obviously, it's easier said than done because general manager is making the calls. He's signing people, making trades. So it's hard to sit here and say not to worry about it. But at the same time, if you're focused on playing and helping your team get better, that's just one thing that you can't worry about because whether Ben was here or not, there's going to be a general manager wherever you play. Some you agree with, some you may not. So for those guys, they just got to understand that Ben's at the helm, and hopefully some words that have been said, some things that have happened over the past year, hopefully steers into a different direction this offseason. That's ultimately what I would say to guys would hope. Show up, do your job, stay ready to play. That doesn't mean you can't voice your concerns or opinion, but at the end of the day, you still got to put on a uniform and go strap it up between those white lines.
All right. Mark, it's time to get you involved. The Pirates hired Bill Murphy as their pitching coach this offseason. He comes over from the Astros organization. Knowing you've probably read everything about Bill Murphy, from articles in the Post-Gazette to his birth certificate if you're able to get access to it. What are your takeaways on the hire, and how do you think this could make the team better?
Yeah, I mean, I love that the pitching staff, first and foremost, said, we were great last year, but we can be even damn better. And I think that kind of drive is what's going to propel this team forward, and they need that. So just the expression that they hired a new pitching coach, good sign already for me. As far as Murphy goes, I mean, he has a connection to Strom. He worked with him briefly. So I assume he comes under recommendation of him. And just the results that the Astros were able to put up with their pitchers. I think Alex Stump, MLB.com, had a stat that the Astros have had the 8th best ERA since 2022 when he was under there. Top 10 in WAR. So they've been consistently good. Obviously, they have a lot of talent, but so do the Pirates. So it seems like he'll be a great fit for the pitching staff, and I'm optimistic about it.
Yeah, I was just in the conversations that I've had. I mean, my opinion is with this regime, they've earned, I think, the trust when it comes to pitching related decision making. When it comes to hires, when it comes to who they draft, how they develop guys, I feel like their wins heavily outweigh their losses in that area. Not many other areas, candidly, but this area. And so I'm willing to absolutely give this a run if I'm a Pirate fan looking at this hire. Part of me was surprised it wasn't just an internal promotion. When you look at this homegrown farm system that they have through the pitching, a lot of the guys who played a key role in their development, I was expecting maybe a Josh Hopper or a Jeremy Bleich to get a promotion, 2 guys who played a big role in that. But from just conversations I've had with people, to me, it sounds like this was a move that was player-driven, that conversations from the players to Don Kelly, like Mark kind of alluded to, this group felt like it was capable of achieving more. So, Josh, from a player perspective, when you see this new manager kind of come in and he's taking in your feedback and he makes this first hire, do you feel like this gives a team a spark that, obviously your job is to work hard and try to reach a new level every time. But when your recommendations are heard and a new organic hire comes from those recommendations, does that give a spark to a organization, to a clubhouse?
Oh yeah, it can definitely give a spark. For one, even though you give recommendations or you voice your opinion, doesn't mean that things are going to change.
Right.
Because granted, let's be honest, not all things can be, changed right away. But I think it does provide a spark because if you said it's player driven, that means players have, not necessarily expressed their concern, but said that they could be better as good as they were. And I think that is something that, as I said, being a manager, being a part of that is acknowledging, where your guys are at, but also being realistic to say, let's give them the best chance to succeed. Not only them to succeed, but us as a whole. Because we know pitching, pitching will carry you as far as you want to go.
Yep. On the note of pitching, like instructional coaches, to you, what makes a good hitting coach and pitching coach? Is it someone who can really break down everything you do fundamentally, or is it someone who more can just meet you halfway and recognize that, hey, you're working with people outside the org, figure out a plan that's probably best individualized for you?
That one, definitely a little bit of both, because there are going to be some fixes that could be possible mechanical that you need a set of eyes to help you, but sometimes it could just be a mentality or somebody's like, you know what, stay the course. You're not doing anything wrong. Because at the end of the day, I've always felt that a hitting coach or pitching coach, they can suggest things, but they can't feel what you feel. So that's why I said it's a little bit of both, meeting halfway. They might suggest something, but if it doesn't match up with what you feel or they see, y'all can go back to the drawing board. But if it's just literally them telling you what to do or vice versa, that's not really any common ground. So it's got to be a little bit of both.
All right. Fellas, it is the month of November. When I think of November, I think of two things. I think of Thanksgiving and I think of shopping. And we're going to do some window shopping right now for the 2026 Pittsburgh Pirates. Free agency starts today, November 6th. Should be a very interesting offseason. There are a lot of intriguing names out there for whatever your shopping budget is. If it's, the budget of the Los Angeles Dodgers, I'm sure they're already licking their chops and trying to get that third straight championship ring. If you're a team that's looking to rebuild, there are options there. And if you're a team in the middle, a team like the Pirates who's trying to win now but on a budget, there are also options. So as we plan for today's show, I asked everyone to make a shopping list based on 4 categories. First category is dream big. These are acquisitions that would be at an annual value of $20 million a year. I think it goes without saying that these are not the most likely moves we could see the Pirates make. But we're a podcast, we're talking ball, we're going to throw a name out there and just have a small conversation on it. And we can talk about how those guys could impact the team. The second category is ambitious. These are guys who would sign for an annual value of 10 to 20 million a year. Someone still probably outside of the Pirates price range, but if they wanted to make a statement, these are probably the highest value guys that they could sign. Third category is makes them better. This is a $5 to $10 million acquisition. Comparisons to the past would be like an Aroldis Chapman, someone along those lines. And then the fourth category is a depth piece. This is what we've seen the Pirates kind of sign frequently over the recent years. This is a $5 million or less guys. So 4 categories. I feel like we can each go along and through each category throw one name out there. We'll start with Mark. Mark, dream big, baby. Start us off.
Dreaming way too big here. Bo Bichette. Fills a hole at shortstop, provides slugging. I was hoping that he would kind of maybe not have the year he did this past year, but had a really good year for the most part. Batted over 300. He has the connection with Ben Cherington, just from the Blue Jays organization. I think Ben drafted him, if I'm not mistaken, possibly.
He was around when that move made, yeah.
Or, involved in that process. So, maybe there's a willingness to bet on a guy he's familiar with, but that's, again, pie in the sky, but it would fix a lot of issues in this lineup.
Well, where do you play Connor Griffin when he's ready?
True.
Because they have a shortstop that's going to be probably starting by May. And it's probably going to be their shortstop for many years.
That's very true. And could you move Bichette to second then? Could you put Connor in center field for a little bit, move O'Neill to right or left?
I'm asking you.
It would be a good problem to have, right? That'd be a great problem to have. And maybe you even have Bichette DH or something. But that would be my big signing. But yeah, with Connor Griffin looming in the wings, obviously that's not going to be a position you want to commit multi-years to, which I think that's what would be necessary to sign a guy like Bichette. I don't think he's going for a 1-year deal. So
No. The Athletic, Tim Britton of The Athletic wrote an awesome story outlining projections, and he has Bichette projected to make $460 over 12 years. So
I want a really big piece of that pie in the sky. Yeah.
okay. Jay, hey, what about you? Who's your guy you're going after and why?
My guy, I told you we need an impact bat. I went with Kyle Schwarber.
I love it.
One familiar with the division.
He was on my list too.
Spent a lot of time with the Cubs. Unfortunately, still hurts a little bit. He hurt us in a wild card game, so he could kind of right his wrongs in my eyes if he was to sign with the Pirates. And I think it just solidifies that lineup. As I said, a blend of speed and power. Power is something that the team is missing, and that right there is a bat that shores up some power.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously you might be able to speak to this better than me, but from the conversations I've had, it seems like Schwarber is in an elite tier of clubhouse guys. Like he is beloved by all teammates that he's had.
Well, I mean, that's also you see he's won a World Series, but everywhere he's been, might not be the most vocal leader all the time, but speaks up when he needs to, but plays the game hard, shows up every day. And guys that play that way, there's a reason why you hear their names and why they're beloved in the clubhouse, and Schwarber is definitely one of those guys.
Britton from The Athletic has Schwarber projected to sign a 6-year, $153 million deal. That's $25.5 million a year, which, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but if they offload Keller for someone pre-arb, you're maybe taking on $10 million extra in salary, so it's not crazy. But again, to get someone like Kyle Schwarber, you're probably going to have to pay more than other teams pay to get him into Pittsburgh. My guy that I had circled, I was along the same lines with you, Josh. I'm looking at slug. I'm also looking at culture, and Josh Naylor, I think, would bring so much to this baseball team. I really enjoy watching him on the field. He seems like a psycho, and I say that in the best of ways. Just his competitive drive. Someone who's been around the team for quite some time, sometimes I felt like this team needed a little bit of a kick in the ass. And he is someone who will provide that. And you just see someone, I mean, it was someone with his size stealing 30 bases. Josh, you talked about in our last episode, approach. I don't know how many baseball players have a better true hitting approach than Naylor. If you watched his at-bats in that marathon game against the Tigers, Game 5 of the ALDS, it was poetry, the way he was working counts compared to everyone else kind of going boom or bust in that game and just try to stick to one pitch to hit. He looked like a real hitter there. I think there's a lot of value you get from him on the defensive side. Like you said, Josh, speed and power, a guy who could steal 30 bags, a guy who can put balls in the seats, and a guy who can enforce a winning culture. The Athletic has him projected to sign 5 years, $140. That's a $28 million annual value. I'm a little surprised by that. I think that's a little high, but I think it's worth every dollar. I think Naylor could provide a lot.
Not a bad.
Yeah,
I was gonna say not a bad assessment.
Yeah.
I played against Josh when I was with the White Sox, and he was with Cleveland. And I mean, really good at bats, as you mentioned, and it's definitely something that showed up every time we played him. Not just their whole team, but he was definitely one that was in the middle of the lineup. You look at as a power bat, but he, as you said, gave good at bats. It was a tough at bat, tough out. And that's ultimately what you want. And if you can blend that with being a good hitter, it makes it that much tougher.
And bringing like a culture change too to the organization.
I was going to say guys feed off of that. Yep.
Because I mean, he's just a ball of energy. Like he's fiery. Like he's going to go out there and believe that they can win every game. And I feel like he can give that confidence, can be infectious, and that energy, and something this team needs.
Yep. He's played a lot of playoff baseball too. Yeah. And I think that matters. We get down to the next tier, and we'll start with Josh on this one. The ambitious tier, 10 to 20 million annual value. Who you looking at, Jay Hay?
So I'm looking for an impact bat. So
right.
that 10 to 20, I went with Marcell Ozuna to shore up the DH. once again, play against him, he can make any ballpark look small, and that's a hitter in there that's going to give protection to somebody. And with Pirates, having multi-positional guys that can bounce around, you don't really have to worry about that DH spot is sold up. He's going to hit righties and lefties, and he's a guy that's been there, done that, and can also lead with a little bit of quiet confidence. I played against him. Good teammate from all the guys that I've played against, but I think that's another bat that I would like to see somebody that can provide some thump in this lineup.
I don't hate it, and I wonder what his value would be. I didn't have him on my list, so I'll have to check the story. But Ozuna's an interesting case, obviously. I think that he profiles as someone that this team could absolutely use, like what you mentioned, for the reasons you mentioned, Josh. I also think that, they could probably use a better veteran Latin presence on the hitting side. I looked at impact.
You want to know who my other one was? My other one was Jorge Polanco.
That's who I was gonna pick. That was my number one pick.
Switch hitter. Yeah. Those were my two. But I was going impact straight. We need some thump. We got guys that can play.
I'll just transition into that
reasoning.
one.
But
yes, the Latin side of it is so I feel like you need someone to unlock O'Neal Cruz, and I feel like a veteran Latin presence maybe can be a connection. It's not to say that O'Neal doesn't have veteran presence. I mean, him and Kutch have a good relationship, but Kutch isn't incredibly fluent in Spanish, and there's a language barrier there. I'm sure he would love to try at times, but you know what I mean? I just think that a guy like Polanco could come in, and he's not super old, and if you're willing to give him, he's probably in a spot where he's not looking for as much length as an Ozuna. I think you could probably get him for a 2 or 3 year deal. And if you're the Athletic has him at a $17.5 million annual value, I think that's money well spent. He's someone you can play on the right side of your infield, probably at second base now. I think he was a plus defender this year, or at least league average. And then in the future, you can move him to first. You could DH him. Like Josh mentioned, he's a switch hitter. You don't have to worry about platooning him at all. I just think there's a lot of positives. And then again, this is a guy who's played in a lot of meaningful baseball games in Minnesota and then, of course, in Seattle. So that was my number one pick. I really like what Jorge Polanco can provide. And I feel like in a sea of big names, he's going to get lost in the shuffle. But that, I think, is probably the best realistic acquisition the Pirates could make in free agency. Mark, what says you?
Just real quick, the Athletic had Ozuna projected at 1 year, $14 million. So
okay,
pretty affordable.
Yeah,
right in that same range. So for me, I was thinking to get that on base percentage up, a guy who had kind of a down year might sign for 1 year to get a prove it contract before a big one. Luis Arias, and I think Greg Brown would lose his mind. Being so happy talking about the never strikes out, always has a batting average hovering around 300. And again, that's a veteran, Latin player that, maybe that can connect, can play second base, first base. His defense is problematic.
Bad.
Yeah, it's getting worse too. So, I mean, do you sacrifice the DH spot for someone like that? Maybe. But just some guy that you can throw in there and rely on to get on base so that any power bat that you do bring in that brings that extra slugging can actually have someone to drive in.
See, I love Arias for what we talked about in last episode about approach. Again, You talk about approaches. I don't know if you can name 10 better in the game than his, right? But when you're talking about their list of needs, I think they need a 25 homer bat more than they need a 300 hitter, personally. Yeah. And if you're going to be spending money that could acquire one or the other, I would probably go toward it. Now, if you were to be able to land a trade where you get a 25 power bat and you get one big free agent signing, I think you could do a lot worse than Arias.
Yeah.
Let's go into the third category now. Makes them better. I'll start off here. I like Mike Yastrzemski. And now all right. So Yastrzemski
but I got another one though. Okay,
good. Because I have a couple of other ones I could throw your way as well. But Yastrzemski's a little out of this. The Athletic actually has him projected to go 1 year, $11 million. However, he does profile as that guy who's only going to get a lot of 1 year opportunities. To me, if I'm the Pirates, I go to him and say, what about 2 years, 20 rather than 1 year, 11? And maybe try to get him on some length. Obviously, Josh, they haven't signed a multi-year free agent since you were still in a Pirates uniform. So I think it's time to break that stigma. It's probably, yes, Ivan Nova was the last multi-year free agent they've signed.
2017.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for our clip there. Thank you for our podcast clip.
I mean, wow, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Speechless. It's time.
Yes.
It's something.
Yeah. You remember Ivan Nova? You remember him?
Oh, do I? We were excited to get Nova. We was hyped. But that is wild to think 8 years ago. That is...
Yeah, if I would have went back and told you back then, hey, this is the last one.
I'd probably be broke because I don't gamble.
All right, so... But anyway, Yastrzemski is a guy that I think, like I said, a lot of his best offers are probably going to come from good teams on a 1 year deal, where the Pirates can probably say, look, we can give you less value, but we can give you more security. We can give you a 2 year deal, or maybe a 1 year deal with a mutual option, something like that. And there's a lot that I really like about this guy's game that can benefit. I think he plays perfectly at PNC Park, playing in that right field, playing off that right field wall, or hell, you can even put him in left field. I think he has the range to play that notch perfectly. He has some nice power. He's not exactly, the bopper that you're hoping as far as like big name power goes, but he's someone that if he's batting 5th, 6th in your lineup, or maybe even 2nd sometimes, I don't feel like that's bad. I think you could do a lot worse. That's why I like him there. Josh, why'd you like him?
Well, I mean, the PNC Park is set up similar to, when he was with San Francisco.
Right.
What's it called now? The
Oracle.
name is changed, right? Oracle, yeah.
Yeah.
Right field with a high wall.
Yep.
Center field, left center, very big. But I remember playing against him, and he made use of that right field wall. He was good, left-handed hitter. But I thought he was a solid player, so that's why it made sense to me when I saw hey, I know he was a free agent. PNC might be a good spot for him. But my other one was Josh Bell.
He was on my list.
And
tell us why.
One, just to reignite. He was there for some of those special years, and sometimes to reignite that kind of feeling, you might need somebody that's been there. And Josh has bounced around since he's left, Pittsburgh, but has had some years here and there. But it might be a good thing for him to come home and be able to, be kind of one of those leaders when he was first there. He was just a young pup that was kind of, just learning about what it meant to win. And now that he got a taste of it and has been around, maybe he can be part of that next wave to, bring some winning baseball back to Pittsburgh.
Bell valued
and a switch hitter. And a switch hitter and some, power.
Valued at $8 million per The Athletic. I don't hate that one. I'd be curious to see his interest in returning, but I mean, what helps interest is this. So, yeah. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I'm right up at the edge of this with a guy who's projected at 1 year, $10 million. But I was thinking Rhys Hoskins. It's kind of tough if you're going to keep Spencer Horwitz at first base. I don't think Hoskins' defense is good enough for left field at all. But if you put
especially
him at
not after ACL.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't even thinking about that. So I love the power. That's a guy that's going to hover around 30 home runs. So he's going to bring that slugging at a budget, maybe. And so, yeah.
I'm not mad at it. He was on my list too. Rhys was
all the power we can get.
I mean, that's kind of been the theme. I was looking for power bats because I know there's going to be some athletic guys that can interchange, but I mean, we know what comes with that, but you want somebody to solidify bringing in some runs.
Yeah. What about you, Noah?
I mean, I don't hate the idea of going after first base either. I mean, we saw Spencer get some looks at second at the end of the year too. And for me, candidly, there's no one who performed well enough last year as a position player where if we can find an upgrade for you, look, we might get you in the lineup, but none of you were 3-4 WAR players, so we can move you around. If you gave us a reason to show, hey, you've earned this spot. You might have earned a spot 1 through 9, but I don't think there's anyone on this team that can definitively say, hey, I deserve to be at this position, batting at this spot in the order. When you have the worst offense in baseball, no one's job should be safe. So if it means that Spencer Horwitz moves over to second base and you find a new spot for Nick Gonzalez or whatever else, that works. And Hoskins, again, similar traits to what we talked about. Played meaningful baseball, has come up with big hits. There's a lot to like there. We'll get into now the final category here, the depth. Josh, we're going to save you for last because I feel like I know who you're going to pick. $5 million or less, probably 1-year deals. Key, Mark, what about you? Who are you starting with?
We'll go with Max Kepler.
Okay.
Again, just I don't know. Take this one, Noah. Here, I need a minute. Let me pull up some stuff. Just don't take Max Kepler.
No, okay. I'll say this. I'm going to go with Rob Refsnyder. A big driving force for me. I don't know if you would even sign for less than $5 million. I think you probably could. I don't know what his value. He's projected to be less than 1 win in value, so I'm just going off of that projection. But I like Refsnyder for 2 reasons. One, he crushes left-handed pitching, and it felt like on start days where there wasn't a righty on the bump, when O'Neill was really struggling to bat against lefties, they did not have an answer. So I think he would be a great platoon signing. You can play him in right field. You can DH him. And I've also heard tons of great stuff about him as far as a clubhouse guy. He's not an expensive acquisition. He's someone, again, he's a platoon signing, but he helps your culture. He's probably, I've heard that he's just really, really good with young players who can get in their own way at times. And they've got young players who probably the game speeds up on them a bit. And having someone who can be a calming presence and who can also take care of the role that he's assigned to. Now, if you're signing him to be your third hitter and start every day, that's probably not the best acquisition. But if you acquire him for what he's built to do, I think that could be a very, very valuable piece to a baseball team. So I'm going to go Refsnyder.
That's not bad. I even think I want to say Rob might even play a little bit of first base too. I've seen him at first base. So once again, positional flexibility allows for, as you said, to be plugged in and absolutely tears left-handers up.
All right. Key, any additional thoughts on Kepler, please?
Yeah, so I'm looking at Kepler's 2025 spray chart right now, and every single one of his home runs was hit over the right field wall. Now, whether that could translate well to PNC, I feel like, where he's avoiding the notch and the deep left field. And also, he brings power at a significant discount. He had an OPS above 800, 816 in 2023, but it's been below 700 the past 2 years. So you have a guy who's shown power. Can he recapture that? Pirates might be a place that he can show that and sign for 1 year and say, I'm 32, give me one more big contract after this. So,
all right. Jay, close us out.
Yeah.
Let's have a discussion.
Man, this one was tough. I had to do a lot of thinking. But if I had to go one, I mean, why not bring my boy Kutch back? You look at the city. I still don't think his numbers were bad. I think he got asked to play a little bit more than probably, I won't say that he would have, because let's be honest, anybody that's in the major leagues playing at a professional level, you want to play all the time. But realistically, we also know that, this would be year 18 if he decides to play. But I'm talking about a guy that, his first 9 years was a 5-time All-Star MVP. He was there for those incredible playoff runs, has been there the past 2 years, and has seen where Pittsburgh, I want to say it's probably reminiscent of a lot of those years right before we, broke that streak. And I think it'd be cool to have somebody like him who's been there help reignite the team, everything with the city, and just being one that did it, back in 2013, 14, and 15. And then here we are 10 years later. And I think that'd be kind of icing on the cake for him. And that's me speaking selfishly.
Yeah, I mean, he deserves that ending, right? He deserves to go out. I don't know if you can expect them to win a championship, but if they could sneak in, even like the Reds did this past year, and win 83 games and let his final game as a Pirate be played either in a situation where they're clinching a postseason berth or in a playoff game at PNC Park, I think that's a perfect ending to the Andrew McCutchen story. I'm curious about the fit. I think if you're bringing him back to DH, this is a team that needs a lot of power. I would like to see Kutch be utilized a little differently. If it means less DH days to get him in right field or maybe pick up a first base glove, I don't know. I think that he could potentially be a platoon guy at first base if it's just once a week. The DH position is so unique on a team like the Pirates where it could be utilized so many different ways. We've seen how it's been utilized with Kutch in the last couple of seasons. Part of me does wonder if it could be utilized differently, but I do think for all the reasons that you just listed, Josh, you can't just overlook him. There is value there, and candidly, he wants to play here. And it's going to take a lot less convincing for him compared to other guys, and there's value in that.
And you look around the league with the way baseball and hitting has been set up, it's one thing he's still doing that a lot of people. He's hitting the fastball.
Yeah.
Regardless of the time that he's played, you look at him, he's still putting up serviceable numbers for the time that he's not used to being a not everyday player, but that's also part of, the changes that a lot of athletes will go through as they get to the latter part of their career. But if he still wants to play, I don't see why not, because if you're not breaking the bank, this dude is going to put people in the stands, and he's also going to be able to continue to do what Kutch does, which is going to lead.
Mark, real quick, your thoughts before we wrap it up here.
Yeah, I mean, bringing Kutch back I'm not going to say no to that. He still brings value, but again, it is that fit that becomes concerning. But I feel like you can fit in a guy with Kutch just for the culture that he brings and the locker room presence. I think having that kind of leadership could bring this team a lot more wins than just what he can do with his bat.
All right. Well, episode 2 in the books, fellas. Thank you all for tuning in. Everyone who's already subscribed, we appreciate it. Keep hitting that subscribe button. Recommend us to your friends, even to your enemies. We'll take any type of listenership we can get. And share our social clips. Follow us on X at Bucco Territory. Be sure to follow our individual socials as well. They're all in the bio of our show page. And keep tuning in. We will be back next week with more Pirates talk on Bucco Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network.